The central hall of the Dimming Star Alliance was built to make even the largest beings feel small. A vaulted ceiling over 20 meters high, veiled in thousands of plasma spotlights casting a ghostly glow like a murmuring galaxy overhead. In that near-sacred silence, every sound, even a breath, echoed like a confession. I am Elias Venn, a translator. No one looks at me, and I prefer it that way. In a council where all eyes seek power, I am the shadow that listens. And this morning a new power will be unveiled. Homo novus descendants of ancient humanity born from the ashes of Earth. Across the rotating round table I spotted Dravari, a reptilian warrior of the Radakar, his claws thick as axe blades dug into the metal armrests. His narrow eyes like cold blades scanned the room. A gesture, a breath from his kind, is enough to make the weaker species withdraw. I knew that gaze well. I once translated when they held a cultural exchange by smashing a satellite into pieces just to prove a point. And today I could feel that gaze settling on the humans. Another fragile species, someone muttered from the learned delegation. Yet another race from a world so peaceful they had to invent philosophy just to kill time. I almost laughed. Peaceful, they said. They've never endured 3 seasons in a single day, never sprinted across a war zone just to find clean water. The northern doors opened. The hologram projector hissed like a blade cutting the air. The first figure stepped in General Isolde Rook. She wore no ceremonial robe, no gilded armor. Only a gray-black uniform with 4 violet stripes, the color of mourning. Her face was calm as stone, but her eyes, those eyes chilled the entire hall. A storm made of human gaze. Dravari sat upright. And for the first time in my life, I saw a Radakar warrior stop tapping his claw. She approached the podium and stood tall. No bow, no permission asked, no gratitude expressed. The translator device clicked on a second late. Her voice came through deeper than expected, clear like stone dropping into water. I am not here to ask for acceptance. I am here to present the truth. The massive screen behind her faded from blue to black. Then the first image appeared, a child crying under acid rain. Its skin blistered, clutching a charred biscuit, eyes lifted skyward, as if to ask, "Why does the sky hate me?" Several species in this chamber gasped. I saw the Nuri delegate turn away. Their kind could not bear the sight of young creatures in pain. Rook continued, "Homo novus was not born of light. We crawled out of darkness, raw, ruthless, and desperate to live. Earth, our world, has died 3 times and resurrected 4. And each time it returned, we had to choose adapt or vanish." Each word she spoke was a blade sliding across the skin of the civilized species seated on crystal thrones. A speech with no flowers, only bone. Another video played ancient war. Human bodies stacked like hills, toxic gas coiling like morning mist. Then came the post-tech era. Scenes of people fighting for each drop of water, each bullet, each promise. "We did not survive because we were blessed," she said, "but because we were more dangerous than anything that tried to kill us." I felt the council chamber shrink. Species born on peaceful worlds were not used to truth. They preferred poems, love songs, and star ballads. They wanted to hear about roses, not blood-soaked roses. But Rook didn't stop. "If you think we are weak because we share our pain, if you think we are soft because we know how to sing, to love, to cry, then you've never met us when we've run out of tears." The hall was dead silent. Even Dravari had stopped tapping his claws. I said nothing, but I knew that moment. Not guns, not missiles, not nuclear warheads. That sentence was the first weapon humanity ever fired at the galaxy. The light from the screen behind General Isolde Rook shifted into a cold, ashen gray, like a thick layer of dust settling over the memories of a planet. She didn't look at the projector. She didn't have to. Those images had been etched into her marrow, as they had for everyone who survived the second climate collapse. Earth didn't die in a day, she said. It died with every breath. A map appeared. A scorched brown continent, blood-red fractures splitting the tectonic plates. The seas had receded from the shores, leaving behind fish bones and drifting plastic. Megacities turned into silent cemeteries. Ecosystems shattered like mirrors smashed by the very hands that once called them home. We were warned. We ignored it. And then the climate became our first enemy. The footage rolled on New Delhi, melting in a 56-degree C heat wave, children collapsing lifeless in their classrooms. In the Americas, Beijing and San Francisco suffocated under wildfire smoke. In Africa, the Nile ran dry to its riverbed. In Europe, nations fought over chunks of newly broken Arctic ice. Drovery glanced at me, his reptilian eyes cold and sharp, as if to ask, "Is this a confession or an accusation?" I gave no answer. I kept listening, like someone pulled from the rubble and forced to look back at the ruins. We had no time to pray. When the seas rose, when the ground cracked, when the sky caught fire, we had to choose kill or be killed. The projector displayed nighttime satellite imagery. The globe plunged into darkness, city lights extinguished like dying stars. Civilians ransacking supermarkets, tearing each other apart for food. Hospitals turned into trenches, nurses arming themselves with bricks, children dying because the power failed to run ventilators. A dry snap rang out. Rook had snapped her fingers. 1/3 of humanity vanished. Within the first year alone, a photo from orbit appeared. Earth, but stripped of green and blue. Only smoke, sand, and scorched red streaks bleeding across the continents. But humans are the most dangerous species, not because of claws or iron scales, because we don't know how to let go. I heard something in the chamber, sharp breaths. Creatures from tranquil worlds couldn't process these images. They had no war, no hunger, no water poisoned by radiation. We, the children of Earth, had eaten ashes, drank dew, and lived off the rotting carcass of hope. Rook continued. After the disasters came the uprisings. After the uprisings, the slaughter. Governments fell. Laws were burned. Humans became wolves. Security footage played a mother running across a street, her food bag snatched. She killed the thief barehanded, then collapsed, sobbing silently as she held her child. No soundtrack, no edits, just raw truth. We fought ourselves, because there was no one else left to fight. A few delegates of the era species turned away. I heard stifled sobs. Then, a new clip emerged. A glimmer. A map visualizing Project Gaia Rebirth. A web of bio-cities rising from surviving rainforests where humans replanted trees, healed the land, and filtered water through layers of living earth. From blood we sowed life again. A close-up, a teenager planting a sapling in the rubble. Behind him stood the remains of a chemical plant. On his shirt, the words, "We don't want to be gods. We just want to live as humans." The lighting in the chamber shifted. Something, strange and unfamiliar, flickered through the eyes of beings who had never known hunger. They saw something absent in their DNA, a courage so foolish it bordered on holy. Rook didn't smile. She didn't glow with pride. She just looked at them straight and still as if to say, "Now that you've seen, judge if you must." Earth died 3 times, and we survived all 3. Because surrender was never an option. I exhaled, not realizing I'd been holding my breath. And when Homo Novus stepped into space, we did not come seeking salvation. We brought our essence, raw, jagged, scarred, as a challenge to the universe itself. If this is a game for survivors, then we are the kings of hell. The footage on the screen shifted to a distant past. No cities, no bombs, no lights. Only red dust, parched sunlight, and the silhouettes of small figures moving slowly across a boundless wasteland. This was the primal era, the age when humanity had no name, only breath. Before there were nations, before there were words, Humans were already a predatory species. General Rook didn't need to emphasize it. The footage spoke for itself. The hologram showed a group of people, lean, sun-darkened barefoot, trailing the tracks of colossal animals. The four-legged beasts, 3 times their size, moved steadily, occasionally growling lowly, but never turning back. Some delegates whispered, "Hunting with stone sticks." "They'll be trampled." I smiled quietly. They didn't get it. None of those humans screamed, none attacked. They simply followed step by step, walking in every footstep. This is what made us dangerous, not claws, not fangs, but the will to never stop. A simulation appeared. A reconstruction from 32nd century genetics and paleoanthropology. It explained a hunting strategy unique in the universe: persistence hunting. We call it the race against death. Not to catch, but to wait until the prey collapses. The time lapse sped up. Light shifted from dawn to dusk to pale gray. The herd kept moving, but fatigue crept in. One beast slipped, another groaned, one more collapsed, and the humans still walking, still breathing, still unyielding. We didn't need to be stronger. We just needed to last longer. Dravari tilted his head. For a species that could snap bones with a flick of their tail, the idea of winning through patience was foreign. In this galaxy, you revere speed, strength, and weaponry. But humanity evolved through wars without guns. We lose in the first 3 hours, but we win in the 8th. Now the screen displayed physiological data. Human muscles cross-woven to distribute force, sweat glands 3 times denser than similar-sized species' oversized lungs, and most uniquely, thermal regulation that allowed running for dozens of kilometers. We are the only species that can run for hours, carry weapons, and never take our eyes off the prey. The projector changed scenes again. A man stepped ahead of the staggering herd. In his hand, a crude spear tipped with resin. His eyes showed no rage, no fear, only purpose. One thrust, simple, precise, unadorned. A beast collapsed. Not from a fatal wound, but because it had lost a race it never knew it was running. Rook spoke slowly. We call it an art. The art of waiting. The art of attrition. The art of letting the enemy wear itself down. I looked around. The hall was eerily silent. No more murmurs. No more scoffing. Only quiet fear. And that fear was justified. When war comes, Rook said we still use the same strategy, only on a larger scale, and with a higher cost. The screen flashed forward. An ancient siege where a small army encircled a fortress for months, severing water, food, and morale. Then came modern warfare, Cold Wars, psychological warfare, data warfare, all following the same model track: persist, pressure. We don't wage war to win quickly. We make the enemy destroy itself. The final clip played. A former commander speaking at a Dimming Star Alliance hearing. If humans go to war, they don't have to be stronger than you. They just have to outlast you. I swallowed hard, because I knew Rook's tale wasn't a boast. It was a warning, and also an invitation. As the final images faded, the hall fell into a breathless silence. No applause, no laughter. Only stillness, the kind that lingers before a storm roars. Rook stepped down from the podium. No bowing, no deference, no waiting for gratitude. She returned to her seat, eyes scanning the council as if to say, "Now speak the truth." And they did. Oh, they erupted like a dam bursting. Unacceptable. "A species like that is a threat," roared the Thilian delegate, his tendrils trembling. "They worship violence. Conflict is in their blood. We are a council of peace, not a prison for evolutionary monsters." At the same time, the neutral bloc spoke up. But their evolution is honest. They hid nothing. Perhaps they are not dangerous, only more truthful than we'd like to admit. Then the voice of the Vaeri delegate, a being shaped like flowing water, resounded like a tide crashing against stone. They've survived extinction events, killed each other, rebuilt from ashes, and now they arrive not to beg for mercy, but to declare who they are. And that is what frightens me most. My eyes turned to VAR Axion, still silent. He sat like a statue, unmoving except for his red reptilian eyes burning. I knew inside his mind a storm was brewing. Then came a voice, powerful, cold, and regal, booming from the council's center chair, Eluun. Var's silence disturbs me. Axion, son of Radakar, you once said war is the first language. What do you say now of humanity? Every head turned to VAR. And he rose, his spine extended tall. His massive frame blocked the ceiling lights. When he spoke, his voice rumbled like stone grinding against steel. I once believed no species was like the VAR, that we alone had evolved from ash and blood, fire and storm. I was wrong. A wave of murmurs swept the hall. VAR admitting kinship with another species unprecedented. I watched the presentation. There was no deception. I felt something familiar, the ache of being misunderstood. They did not embellish. They tore themselves open to show us their blood. Then he turned directly to the Thilian delegate. They did not beg for mercy. And that is why they deserve more respect than any who has walked into this chamber. His final words thundered like a verdict. Silence. The kind of silence that comes after old beliefs are burned. Chair Eluun, still composed, addressed the assembly. By convention, the admission of a new species requires a 2/3 majority vote. But by tradition, if the candidate causes significant division, a second round of deliberation is triggered. Right here. I knew what that meant. A battlefield of words was about to begin. The delegate from Aelari stepped forward, shaped like living light, and spoke. We have welcomed species of peace intellect poetry. But humanity is a paradox. They create art and invent genocide. They build cathedrals beside crematoriums. They love and they kill. So what are we welcoming, a civilization or a nightmare waiting to awaken? Ripples of agreement spread through some species. But then a softer, clearer voice rose from the Jurnari delegation. They chose to show their darkest truths on their very first day. No sugarcoating, no illusions. What about us? Has anyone here ever shared their species' first war in this hall? No one answered. They are dangerous, yes, but at least they know they are. That was the part that sent chills down my spine. Humans do not deny who they are. Chair Eluun gave the closing statement. Deliberation will pause. Voting will commence later. But I will say this. Humanity is unlike any we've seen, but they are not apart from us. They may not be the embodiment of hope, but they are the embodiment of a truth we've long refused to acknowledge. The lights dimmed. The session adjourned. But I knew something had changed forever. VAR Axion approached me, his eyes narrowing. You see, translator. For the first time, the entire council looked into a mirror. And what they saw was a human. I don't know why I stood up. No one called my name. No one asked me to speak. I was a translator, a nameless shadow in the play of giants. But as the lights in the hall dimmed and the air still reeked of unspoken prejudice, I found I couldn't remain seated. There are moments when history needs someone unimportant. I stepped toward the podium, heart pounding like it was trying to escape my chest. Hundreds of eyes turned to me, confused, unfamiliar, uncertain of who I was. But VAR Axion saw me, and he nodded just once. My name is Elias Venn, the translator, the one behind the recorder, and the one who has heard all of you speak. I didn't try to sound strong. My voice trembled. But within the trembling was truth. And truth, no matter how fragile, is stronger than weapons. I was born in Dustgrave Settlement, a place no longer on any map. We grew up with ash in our lungs and salt water in our eyes. We clawed the earth to plant roots, pried iron from ruins to patch rooftops. And every night when darkness fell, we told stories. A few delegates raised their heads. I saw doubt in their eyes begin to shift into attention. We told stories where the strongest wasn't the one who survived last, but the one who never let go of hope, even when hope was buried under 5 layers of stone and 2 layers of despair. And those stories kept us alive. I turned to the council creatures who had never known hunger, who had never trembled through the night, who had never been betrayed by the sky. You fear us, I understand. Our survival challenges your morality, because you were born in peace and we were forged in hell. But if that's true, then hell too can give birth to light. I took a deep breath. The next words were a blade, but a blade that needed to be drawn. You call us beasts who learned to speak, but at least we are honest about our fangs. How many among you have hidden your shadows in the name of evolution? How many civilizations have buried their bloody pasts to call themselves enlightened? The entire hall trembled. I knew then I had pulled the pin on a bomb made of words. But no one stopped me, and so I continued. If you fear us, then fear us. Because fear is a form of respect. But if you dare look at us without glass, without translation, without illusion, you will see a raw truth. We are the mirror of what you have tried to bury. Var. Axion made a deep sound. I didn't know if it was laughter or agreement. Perhaps both. I do not ask for your mercy. We are used to rejection. But I ask for one thing. Only one. I stepped away from the podium. No script. No holograms. I simply raised my hands. Bare. No weapons. No claws, no armor. Take our hands not because you believe we will never harm you, but because you understand we've harmed ourselves so deeply we no longer want to do that to anyone else. Silence. Then, applause. Not unanimous, not thunderous, but a Jonari delegate clapped, followed by a Nefari, and then a few more those who had remained silent now speaking through gesture. I returned to my seat. Rook looked at me. For the first time, she smiled not as a tactic, not in caution. Var. Axion stepped beside me, his voice low enough for only me to hear. Sometimes, a single drop can shatter a sea of fire, but only if it falls in the right place. I didn't reply. I just nodded, because I understood. The transformation had begun. Not in the council, but in the hearts of those who once believed they could never understand one another. The council meeting ended with the golden chime of Chair Elun. The vote had not been announced. No result declared. But everyone knew the scale had tipped. Not because of power, not because of nuclear weapons, not because of artistry, but because of truth. I, Elias Venn, sat in the waiting chamber, head bowed, hands still trembling. I couldn't recall each word I had spoken. Only the eyes of those creatures as I stepped down from the podium. No longer fear, no longer contempt. Recognition. The sliding door opened. No knock, no signal. Var. Axion entered. His shadow filled the entire room. No armor, no weapon. Just a gaze, enough to make me feel like I stood before a star about to explode. You did it. No growling, no stomping, and yet you made the whole council listen. I didn't know whether to thank him or worry. But he didn't wait for a reaction. He held out a small object, a black stone carved by claw bearing a spiral symbol like a flame in the night. This is the VAR Covenant mark. When someone brings it to Radakar, we do not ask why. We ask, do you need us to fight or stand beside you? I accepted it, feeling the cold weight like an oath in my palm. We have decided. We stand with humanity. I looked up. But the vote isn't over. Axion let out a low growl, something like a hoarse laugh. The council will stall. They always do when the truth is too clear. But war doesn't wait for resolutions. My chest tightened. You mean there are forces that do not want humans to be admitted? Because if humanity, the species that survived hell, is allowed to stand among us, then every great ideology will have to reconsider itself. He paused, then spoke slower. They will try to isolate you. They will incite war through other hands. They will drown humanity in the very universe you sought to join. I asked, almost in a whisper. Then why stand with us? Axion looked at me, for the first time not as a predator, but like an elder seeing himself in the next generation. Because you are like us, but you still mourn blood. You fear your own nature. And that makes you dangerous. Dangerous in a way that must be kept close, not cast away. We didn't sign a contract, no seals, no pens, just two shadows standing in a dim hallway, shaking hands. 3 days later, the vote was held. Homo Novus was denied. They fell short by exactly 2 votes. The Alliance headlines called it a peaceful rejection for interplanetary security reasons. But in the back corridors where light doesn't reach, encrypted messages began to pulse, and unrecorded meetings began to spark. VAR began supplying bioresources to humanity's reconstruction stations. In return, Homo Novus shared attritional warfare data and post-collapse recovery techniques. No one acknowledged it, but the whole galaxy knew an alliance had been born. 2 weeks later, a silent strike hit the outer rim of neutral space. A Homo Novus research base was wiped out entirely. Not by bombs, not by guns, but through false data. Twisted history. Accusations that humanity was a contagion. Galactic media wrote humanity hero or monster. That question needs no answer, because in the dark, VAR had already moved its task force to the border of the neutral zone. No one spoke, but everyone understood. If one more blow landed on Homo Novus, it would no longer be diplomacy. It would be war. And this time, the 2 most lethal species in the galaxy would fight, side by side. I, Elias Ven, am still a translator. But now the words I carry are no longer records of others. I am writing history, line by line, meeting by meeting, handshake by shadowed handshake. And I understand, we haven't won. But for the first time in humanity's history, we are not alone. We have an ally, not of light, not of angels, but a mirror of ourselves. We and VR, 2 shadows standing together. We will not bring the dawn, but we will force the galaxy to choose a new sun. If you've followed us to the end of this journey, then perhaps you feel what I feel. Not everyone born in the light is a savior, and not everyone who emerges from the dark is a monster. What do you think about humanity in this story? Are they a threat or a survival lesson the entire galaxy needs to learn? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you were a member of the Council, would you vote to admit or exile humanity? If you were a VAR warrior, would you offer a handshake or draw your blade? Don't forget to share this video if you believe that sometimes what scares us the most is also what's most real. And if you want to continue this journey with us, hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and get ready for the next chapter, Operation Black Veil, when 2 species from hell strike back at the stars. This isn't just a story, it's an invitation for you to become part of the greatest debate ever held among the stars.